Welcome to my ranking of Esoctrilihum, which was a Patreon request by none other than Jamie himself, Discovery Metal Legion. He just wanted me to do this because they have like 10 albums and they're all ridiculous. So, here you go. You paid for it. Let's go. Esoctrilihum ranked from my least favourite to my favourite. Now, they are a band, one-man band, which is very unique within the spectrum of black metal. Like, nothing sounds like Esoctrilihum, and nothing probably will. Like, the vocal style is very alien-like, very just different, odd. It feels like it's pulled out of H.P. Lovecraft. The snarls and the weird sounds. It does feel like an alien's actually singing to you in a lot of these albums. So, very unique band, and I like I like most of the albums. There's one album I'm not a big fan of, and we'll get to that very soon, but the rest, I think, are pretty enjoyable. So without further ado, let's get in with the ranking, and last place is the only album I'm not a big fan of, which is rare, because it's a genre I love a lot. We're talking about Funeral. Funeral is my least favourite album by Esoctrilihum. Yeah. This one I was really expecting to love. Like, I love Funeral Doom, and I love doomy stuff, and they kind of incorporate that kind of into this album. It's a lot slower, a lot dirgier, a lot doomier. But they involve, like, the clean singing in this album. It just doesn't work. I don't think the clean singing is very good. It just throws me out of it. And I'm kind of like, whoa, this is not like any of the other albums, which, give it credit for, it's unique, stands out from the rest of the albums, because some of them can kind of blur in together, but not in a good way. Not a big fan of cleans, and it kind of throws me off the album. It's like an hour long as well. Most of the albums are quite long, but this one just doesn't do much for me. Yeah, Funeral is the only album by the band not big into. Luckily, they followed it up with an album which was pretty damn good. So we'll get to that soon. But yeah, last place is Funeral. Next up we have Pandorum. That's right, Pandorum, an older album. This is more of like a death metal sounding album. It's quite dark, quite heavy, fairly long as well. It reminds me of Inhuman. Is that Inhuma? Sorry, not Inhuman. Inhuma, which I love. It has that similar kind of sound to it, quite dark, quite evil, quite heavy. But I just feel like Inhuma just does it better. I just feel like the songs are more well written on that album, and I think it just takes everything from this one and just improves on it tenfold. So yeah, I do enjoy this album quite a bit. You know, throw it on, it's a good time. Heavy album, but it's just not as good as any of the other albums, so that's why it's coming here. Second to last, still enjoy it, still throw it on, because from here on out, they're all pretty damn good. Next up, we have Mystic Echo from a Funeral Dimension. This is the debut by the man. I actually really loved it. I could put this higher, but it's coming here for now. I wouldn't say the problem, but this album is very mystical. It's very ethereal and like calm and subdued. It's a very peaceful album. Still has the trademark sound in. It's just not as well developed as some of the later ones from Inhuma onwards. But it is a lot more atmospheric. Like, this is the atmospheric album. I love it for that. It has a complete different atmosphere to any of the other albums. It does feel like you're just in a misty meadow listening to this weird, creepy constellation alien things going over your head. Love this album, but yeah, something has to come lower on the list. And sorry, debut, it's you. Right, I need to read this one. Next up is the Telluric Ashes of the Overearth Immemorial Gods. Yeah. They have some crazy-ass album titles. Now, this album is very good. It was really hard to place this on the list because there's a lot of albums in this mid-era of the band which kind of sound similar, but I just like songs on other albums better. That's the only thing I can say, really. I will say that the art on this one is the best. Like, the giant towering monster thing with clam head or whatever the hell's going on, just smashing build. It feels like playing Rampage with some demon from the Nether Realm. It feels crazy and I love it. And the songs are cool and unique. But again, it's kind of a transitional album going from this to like Eternity of Shog, which I think just does it better. So you'll see that later on. But yeah, this album's actually fantastic, and if this is your first one, I can see why it being top of your list, but for me, it was not my first one. It's probably like my fifth album, and by then I already heard this kind of style already, You know, I already heard this style on other albums, like Dive Requiem, like Eternity. So it wasn't as surprising to me. It was just, pretty good album. Pretty good album, so it's coming here. Next up is the latest one, I'm going to have to read it again. Astral Constellations, the Magical Zodiac. Holy moly. This is the newest one, which is like over 2 hours and 10 minutes long. Oh my god, this is going to be one of the longest albums by the band. And again, similar things I can say about this one as I could about the previous one. This does feel like Dive Requiem for the Serpent Telepath Part 2, which is why it's a bit lower on my list, because it feels like it's rehashing the same stuff and drawing it out a bit longer. But the actual songs within, they slap. The atmosphere, creepy, alien-like. I love it. If you dive into this one first, this may be your favourite. I know Bean Man has this as favourite, and probably his favourite album of the whole year. But for me, I've heard it before. I've heard it before on Dive Requiem. I've heard it before on Eternity. I've heard it before on a lot of the other albums, Sap Offs. Because he releases stuff like crazy. But that's not to say that this album isn't good. It sounds similar to Dive, yeah. But I'd say go check it out, because the songs held within are still fun, still fantastic, and still worth your time. Next up is Consecration of the Spirit's Flesh. A different sounding album. This is the craziest, heaviest album by the band. It's full force intensity, pound you into dust. It is craziness. It's thrashy, it's heavy, it's shorter than a lot of the other albums, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed this album. I wouldn't say I preferred it to some of the mid-era creepy alien-like albums, but I still loved the change of pace, change of intensity. They knocked it up to 11 on this album, and I like it for that. So yeah, really enjoyed this album when it came out. And that's pretty much all I can say. I really enjoyed it, but the next album that came out after, I enjoyed even more, which is Sap Offs. And this went back to the alien-like sound that they've been doing, and you'd think I'd get bored of it, but this one has a very, avant-garde, atmospheric, kind of like the debut, but mixing it in with the alien-like atmosphere, and it just works so well. And it was such a good change of pace from Consecration as well, going from that fast, intense, beat you over the head the entire album to like this cool, mystical energy of Sap Offs, and I really enjoyed it. I think Sap Offs is one of the best Esoctrilihum albums, and that just goes to show how good they are, because it's not even in top 3. So there you go. Now, what is in the top 3 is Inhuma. Now, this is a weird pick, because this is like the 3rd album by the band. It is not quite as crazy or creepy as Alien like the mid-period. This has its own energy and its own identity. I love it. It's dark, it's evil, it's heavy, it's to the point. All the songs are short, and the album's like 55 minutes. Like, it's to the point. I love that about this album. It's short to the point and just delivers on the music. The music held within, so evil, so dark, so brooding. I love it. The riffs are killer. The vocals, really good as well. I love this album. I love the art on it. I think this could even be number 1. I was struggling with it. It might rise higher soon, but there was 2 albums that I've been listening to a lot longer and that got me into the band, so I give them the edge at the moment, but Inhuma will rise. Don't worry about that. Such a unique album in the discography, and it's weird that I like this, but Pandorum is a bit lower, but hey-ho, I just feel like this album's better. So it's coming here at number 3. So that is number 3. Number 2, we have Eternity of Shog. This is the first album that got me into the band. I loved it. Such a weird alien-like creature. It's everything Esoctrilihum's been building towards, and it just delivered on all fronts. Weird atmosphere, crazy vocals, amazing production, great riffs. It has everything. It's like, for Esoctrilihum, not in general, it's like a 10. For them it's a 10. And somehow they managed to even beat that with Dive Requiem, which is my number 1. But yeah, not to skip over Eternity. Eternity, one of the best albums in general, and one of the most unique albums, and I think everyone needs to check it out and give it a listen, because I love it so much. But yeah, Dive Requiem is my number 1 for the band, and you saw this coming. It was my album of the year when it came out. It was my album. If you watched my albums of the year videos, Dive Requiem for the Serpent Telepath was my number 1. I got a physical copy behind this green screen, But I'm lazy, so I'm not going to grab it. But yeah, I love this album. When I heard it, I was like, fell in love. The riffs are so catchy and memorable. This is the most memorable album. Every riff is catchy. Every vocal delivery. It's so good. Yeah, it's a bit long, but all the albums are a bit long, pretty much. I love it. It's literally, it took perfection and perfected that. Just made the vocals even creepier, made the sound design even better. The riffs are more catchy. Everything about it is just gold. So, Die for Requiem is my favourite Esoctrilihum album of all time, and it's good to do this because they'll probably release another 5 albums by the time this video is over. So let me know down below how you rank Esoctrilihum. Let me know. Thanks to Discovery Metal Agent. Go check his channel out because he needs more subs as well. So go check him out. Shilling. And yeah, we'll see you again on another quest for metal.